Hi everyone, in this session we will do some code cleanup and we will also work on our GitLab repository. If you would have noticed in our previous sessions, what we used to do is we used to commit all our changes directly to the develop branch. Okay, and in real time we usually don't do that. We follow some standards that we don't commit changes directly to any of our protected branches. What we do is rather we create a feature branch from the develop branch, and then we commit all our changes to the feature branch and then create a merge request from the feature branch to the develop branch. Okay, so that is what we are going to do. And also when creating the branches, if you see here for my repository, I have three branches: master, test, and develop. Develop is for the development environment, test is for the QA or UAT environment, and master is for the production. So by default, master is protected, but in our case, we don't have the develop and the test branches protected. So what we're going to do is, first we are going to make this protected and make sure that nobody or from the team is able to directly commit changes to the develop or test branch. For that, in the test and in the settings repository, we have an option called protected branches. Here I'm going to select the branch and allow to merge. I would say allow to merge by developers and maintainers. Allow to push, I'm going to say no one, and I'm going to click protect. The same thing I'm going to do for the other branch, that is test. Allow to merge by developers and maintainers. Allow to push no one. So now if you look at the branches, you can see that all our branches are protected. So now nobody can push to this branches. Okay, so the next what we are going to do is we are going to do some code cleanup. If you go to our repository, you can see that we have Maven wrapper files, right, which we never used. Okay, if you see here in our YAML file, we are using Maven image, right, that comes with OpenJDK. So when we run the script, we used Maven command because the Maven is already installed in the image. So we don't need these files. We don't need the wrapper files. So let's go back here to our IDE, and here if you see that currently I'm pointing to develop branch, so I'm going to switch it to the feature branch. To do that, first let me do a fetch and make sure that everything is up to date. Okay, so I do it next, do a pull, and everything is up to date. Okay, so now if I go to the Git perspective in the branches, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new branch, and I'll call this as feature code cleanup. Okay, and finish. So now you can see that I am now switched to the feature branch. Let's go back here, remove the .mvn file. I'll just say delete, and the next, I don't need the Maven wrapper files. I'll remove on this. Okay, so with this, we are good with the code cleanup for the Maven files. So what I'm going to do is, next I'm going to commit this, and I'll commit with a message that includes to skip the pipeline. I don't want to trigger the pipeline yet, okay, because there are a few more changes that we need to make to our pipeline. So we are going to skip the pipeline for this commit. Okay, so to do that, what we'll do is we'll say code cleanup, and in the square bracket I can give it as skip CI, or you can also say this this statement, what it does is it will skip the pipeline. Okay, so in your commit message, if you the GitLab checks for this syntax here, and if it finds this, it's going to skip the pipeline. So you can use skip CI, or you can also say CI Okay, either of it works. So I'm going to say commit and push. Okay, so it is pushed successfully. Let's go back here and refresh. And you can see that we have now the branch called feature code cleanup. And if you look at the pipeline, no pipeline was triggered because it is skipped. Okay, so next what we're going to do is we want to create a deploy job for each environment. Okay, so previously we had something like deploy, okay, and we deployed it to the dev environment, right? So now we want to create a deploy job for each environment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this and this is for dev and this is going to be for the test environment, and finally this is going to be the prod environment. Okay, so now deploy, the stage is fine, but we need to change the script because the environment is going to be different. We don't want to deploy all these jobs to deploy it to the same environment. So what we're going to do is we're going to change the test script here to test, and I think rest everything remains the same because it's just the environment that changes. If you look at our AWS Beanstalk, we have 3 different environments: dev, production, and test. Okay, and if you look at the application, it has 3 different environments. So we have to give this names. So let's copy this and create a variable at the top, and I'll call this as SRS test environment. Okay, and the same way I'm going to call this as prod environment. Okay, and here I'm going to change this to prod. Okay, so rest everything remains the same. Yes, and now I need to tell the GitLab that whenever I commit the changes, that this job should be triggered only when I make a commit, or you can say a merge to the develop branch. Okay, and the same way this job needs to get triggered when I do a merge to the test branch, and the production one should be triggered when I merge to the master branch. For that, what we have is we have an option called only. Okay, and only I would say this as develop branch, and the same way we can have it for the I think this is not in the sync. Okay, now it looks good. Same way here. I'll call this as test. And finally, I have the master branch. Perfect. So if you can see that, now what will happen is whenever we create a merge request from the feature branch to the develop branch, this is going to get triggered, and from the develop branch to the test branch, this will get triggered. Okay, and finally the master branch, we have the deploy prod. And if you look at this, the deploy jobs will not be triggered for any merge or any commit that we do to the feature branch. Okay, so when I commit the changes to my feature branch, the jobs that will be triggered is unit test, code coverage, and the build, right? So these jobs are common for any commit that you make or to your feature branch or the merge request that you do to your protector branches. Okay, So with this, let's commit this change and let's see. GitLab CI changes. Let's commit and push. Let's go here to our GitLab, and now you can see that the push was done to the feature branch, and we have the code coverage, unit test, and the build job, but we don't have the deploy job triggered or in the pipeline. So this way what happens is, whenever a developer is committing any changes to the feature branch, he will make sure that, okay, these two jobs, all these three jobs are successful. If there is an issue, he will go back and make those fixes and then commit the changes back to the repository, that is the feature branch. Okay, once everything looks good, what will happen is the developer will create a merge request from the feature branch to the develop branch. So let's wait for this to complete, and then we'll create a merge request to the develop branch. Okay, all the jobs ran successfully. So before we create a merge request from the feature branch to develop branch, we will do one more step that we discussed in our previous session, that is protecting the variables, right? For that, we have to go to our groups, okay, and let's go to our group, and here we have something called repository. Okay, not in repository, I guess it was in the CI/CD. Okay, CI/CD, we have the variables, and if you see that currently we change it to unprotected. That means because when this is checked, okay, what will happen is these variables will be pushed only to the protected branches. So as now all our branches, develop, test, and master, are protected, we can change this setting to protect variables. Okay, so let's do that, and we should be good with this setup. Okay, now let's go back to our project and create a merge request to our develop branch. Okay, so if you look at our current feature branch, we don't have those Maven wrapper files. So let's create a merge request, and this is to the master branch, so I'll change the branches here. The source is the feature branch, and the target branch is the develop. Create compare, and here you can assign it to someone, the reviewer, and if you have a milestone, you can select that. Also labels, if you want to say that develop in progress, so whatever labels you want, you can add it and then assign it over here. Finally, what I'll do is once the merge is completed, I would delete the source branch because I don't want to keep the feature branch. Okay, that is something that we normally do. And finally, I do a squash commits, and I submit the merge request. Okay, so the merge request is submitted. Now someone from the team member will log in and look at the merge request, okay, and compare all the changes. If everything looks good, okay, then the developer will approve it and merge it. Okay, and if there is any issue or if there is any comment that needs to be addressed, then developer can put those comments here and ask the other developer to resolve those issues. Okay, so in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to approve this merge request and finally merge it. So now when I merge, what it's going to do is it's going to trigger the pipeline. So let's look at the pipeline, and now you can see that we have a deploy dev. So the merge is to the develop branch, so we have the deploy dev job. So let's let this complete, and then we'll create another merge request from develop to the test branch. Okay, so the pipeline is completed. Let's do a quick check. And here I'll refresh. Let's go to our dev environment. And you can see the running version is 76. So let's try to access our application. And you can see the response. Okay, so all looks good. So let's create a merge request from develop branch to the test branch. And we're going to follow the same steps. I'll squash commits. And again, someone from the team will approve this and merge it. Okay, so our pipeline is created. Let's look at it. And you can see that now we have deployed test. So let this complete and we will do a quick test in our AWS environment. Okay, the test pipeline is completed. Let's do a quick test. Okay, the running version is 77. Let's click on this. Try to access our endpoint. And we get the response. So everything looks good in our test environment. So let's create a final merge request from our test to the master branch. And let's approve this and merge it. Okay, the pipeline is created. And you can see that we have the prod job here in the pipeline. So let's get this complete and we'll come back to our environment and do a quick test. Okay, the pipeline is completed. Let's go to our AWS prod environment and it's getting refreshed. So, the environment is getting ready. You can see here the events that says deploying new version to instance. So the previous instance the version was sample application. Okay, so let's try to refresh now. And you can see that the version is deployed. So let's do a quick test and try to access our user endpoint and we get the response. So this way, we have successfully created 3 different deploy jobs for each environment, and we also followed the standard way of pushing the changes to the repository and creating merge request and doing the CI/CD. Okay, so I hope all the steps are clear, and the CI/CD pipeline. You can also add many other jobs as per your requirement. You can add some more jobs to your test or build stages where you can do some post build validations and all those, but not to keep it more simple, I have added just few of the jobs. I hope all the stages and the GitLab CI/CD pipeline syntax and everything is clear. So that's all for this session, and thank you.